Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, your host, and I want to talk to those of you who are like, you get out of bed and you're not happy with your life. Does that sound like you? Does that resonate with you? Well, the reason I want to talk about that is because the purpose of this podcast is finding your peace, your passion, and your purpose. And those three things we're going to talk about today. So I am here with Sunaina Mehta, and she is the founder of Design Your Next. And so it's an amazing story that she has, which got her to where she is today. And so without further ado, Sunaina, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then we're going to talk about it.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sunaina. Sounds like Susanna or banana. It's nice to meet you. I am the founder of Design Your Next and an ex-corporate business person or a corporate marketer. Currently, I've established a program which is really around. It's a strategic program for women who are looking to discover their purpose and connect with that, sort of shed the layers, and who want to define where they're going. So to design their next on their own terms. And it's a cohort-based program. It's amazing and comfortable and all the things that allow for authorship, which has really been a signature of my life, is authorship, self-authorship.
So can we get deep and personal for a little bit? Or like, first of all, I want to talk to the listeners. Like, you have an incredible resume of some big names that you used to work with for marketing, right? And so like Nike, Coca-Cola, Samsung, HP. And so that's like a big job. And you left that job to pursue happiness and peace. So can we go back a little with the origin story and talk about how you got to where you are today?
Yes, and I'll try to keep this short because it does go all the way back. And that's over 50 years now. I was born in New York City and moved and grew up for 12 until at the age of 12 in Dayton, Ohio, in the Midwest. I had a very amazing Midwest upbringing, all the great stuff that is made of the dreams of the woods and cycling and all that fun stuff. And then in 86, my parents moved, they returned to India. I moved to India, my brother and I. So I grew up in a very different culture and under very different circumstances than what I was raised for, including not being able to speak the language, let alone enunciate the words that were commonplace, even in the English language in the country there. So that itself was a very, very major part of who I am. It taught me, encoded within me, resilience. And how to survive. I nowadays equate resilience with how to survive or survival mode. So there's some goods and some bads associated with that. At 24, I decided that even though I've always tried to mold my identity to what the conventional circumstances have asked of me, played the roles that I believed were the roles that would earn me recognition and admiration. At 24, I tried to continue down that path, but then upped and after an interesting arranged marriage meeting, I said, enough, I'm going back to what I call home, which was again the Midwest. So I landed back in Chicago with nothing but one suitcase of very warm weather clothes and my intentions. From there, I just went on, got married, had a son. At 3, we moved back to India. So then I spent another 7 years in India. I was divorced there, a single mom in New Delhi, which was a harsh place to be a single mother, and remarried, had a child who didn't make it. So I was a mom for a moment again. And said, no, I can't be here. And again, back to the United States. So then Boston, then San Diego. And my career has always been going strong. So to kind of bring this full circle, I'm now in LA, but my career has been an upward trajectory in the area of advertising and marketing, brand marketing, and innovation across all those brands and more that you mentioned at many top ad agencies, and as a head of department 4 times over.
I love your resilience. And that is a good word because in the Indian culture, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the culture is more the women stay home, they're a little more quiet, and the man runs the house or the everything, right? Or wrong.
Sort of right, yes. I think the women in India, especially the educated women, are becoming much more career-minded and independent. And in the traditional Indian family structure has always been a joint family,
Okay.
where families actually, where brides move into grooms' homes with their parents, with his parents. So really, the director of the show tends to be the parents
Oh.
even more so than the husband. Again, traditionally speaking, and then the husband himself has been raised in a patriarchal environment and has been cultivated or acculturated to believe he must run the show forward, and it is his career and his decisions that are good for the collective and good for the status of the family. So that is evolving and changing now, but those mores or mores are still very ingrained in the system there. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for articulating it the way I was trying to, but yeah, it's very interesting that you were able to find yourself and say, no, this isn't okay, not once, but twice, but also to be a mother of losing a child, so I know that you resonate with some of our listeners as well. How did you get through that and continue to support your son and support yourself?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a very deep one. And what we often realize through these circumstances, or what I did, was that our stories keep unfolding and that things, they may happen for a reason. They may seem good, they may be seem bad, but ultimately they all end up aligning. So I've always had a level of optimism about that. I've always been very career driven to the point of pushing myself too hard to climb my career. And I think that kind of focus got me, what's the word, a thick-skinned to get through some things. I'm not saying that's right. In fact, I wish now that I had seen that a little differently. But the loss itself, she was 24 weeks born premature in New Delhi, and it was handled very in let's say a not so sacred way in the city, in the fabric of that society, which for me, it was, keep calm and carry on, keep doing, keep running on your career, keep standing for what I believe are my boundaries, which are integrity and career. It was integrity and career at that time. And that I won't live within circumstances that hold back my possibilities or that hold back my ability to be my own person. So there's some sort of level of an inner strength that says, you are your own person, and nobody defines or delineates who you will be. And so that really got me to, I'm going back where I know my values are felt and where they are more aligned. So I actually picked up and moved back to the United States on account of it. But it's inner strength. I think there's just some sort of a self-belief and righteousness even that pulls you through very, very difficult times.
I agree. And everyone has their different way of handling losses. And so it's just interesting that you talk about at age 50 that you rebuilt your entire life. You went back to design school. So you went back to school, you got divorced, you sent your son to college, you sold your house, and you started completely over at 50. And so a lot of times people think, oh, I'm so old. And because I'm past that number now as well. And so you think it's just too late to start over, but you did it. And now you coach other people on doing that. So what made you decide to start over?
Well, some of the things that triggered it was my second marriage not working out, learning certain things that are in my book where I said the line of integrity is crossed and these are non-negotiables. So some of those things were impressed upon me. The other was this internal feeling, like sort of remembering in your body that you're tired and this isn't who you were once upon a time. And this urge just rose up in me to explore who I am again. So I did quit my job, walk away after the divorce or during/after the divorce. And to get through that again, it comes back to who am I authentically? And I started losing a sense of who that was. And for me, that's not okay. Not understanding what my markers are, my own guideposts inside, and losing control over those is not something I'm comfortable with. To me, life is supposed to be about possibilities and expansiveness. And I do believe that if I understand who I am, fear becomes some power to harness. It's not good or bad. Again, even fear isn't good or bad. It's something you can harness and take forward into something unknown. It's because of fear you have courage. With courage, you have confidence. You start to play, you start to try different things, and things start to unfold and things start to come to you. And then you get more engaged, and suddenly you start feeling into who you are intuitively with your own voice, aligned with your mind, where we tend to live in our heads, right? With the pressure, somehow that all releases. It's an act of discovery. And this is the same thing I actually have cultivated within the program that I do in Design Your Next, as we go through these phases in a structured and safe environment and in a way that creates momentum to outcomes, to actual designing what that path looks like.
Yeah, I think that we are taught and ingrained, especially if you come from a culture that's very rich culture, that you play it safe, right? You do what your parents did. And it's, I think since COVID, things are changing a lot. And people are like, you know what? I'm not happy and I don't have to stay in this environment, or I don't have to stay doing this, or I don't want to do this career. Like I've talked to a lot of people recently. They walked into work and they're like, I quit today. You're not going to see me again, and it could have been a 5 or 10 year career. And so I think that that's the part that, and I hope our listeners realize that it doesn't matter the age that you are, it's a number. It's, are you happy in your skin? Are you happy with who you are when you look in the mirror? And if you're not, it's time to change. And so let's just talk about your Design Your Next. What does that mean? And how do you help people reinvent themselves?
I look at it actually as it's not reinvention, it's a constant evolution.
Okay.
So who we are and how we keep moving
Right.
is just it's an unfolding, right? Um, and the way I look at it is I use a spine of strategic design, so design thinking, which means first we're going to be very divergent, the typical design thinking format. And for your listeners who don't know design thinking, it's really how designers approach problem solving from a human perspective, understanding, empathizing with who a person is, and therefore understanding and really framing the problem we need to address for them. And then moving on to, therefore, how we're going to solution with an experimental mindset.
Okay.
We're going to try, we're going to push some boundaries. So I apply that to design your life, right? And design who you are. So approach yourself with empathy. So we first go into this divergent discovery of play. What does play mean in your life? How have you played when you were younger? What do those patterns look like? That things that not just bring you joy, but that just energize you differently. How do those show up today? Can those things show up even more? What are the shifts you really, really hope to see in yourself? And like, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself becoming? What is that direction? We put all that together and say, okay, well, what's your voice? How does that sound? We do method acting work actually within this. I've built in pieces that really kind of aliven up our feminine energy without getting spiritual or woo-woo about it, which they do, those things have their place. Those things definitely have their place. To just awaken that in a way that you feel it in your body, not just in your head, or even your heart. It's just your whole body needs to start sensing. And we define a purpose, a clear purpose for your why, right? What is it that you really, really find meaningful, and what are you going to do about it? And for whom? For whom are you going to do that? So that's really brand storytelling. It's what my career has been about. I incorporate that. Then we get to project.
Hmm.
What are you going to do that's attainable? Attainable in 90 days, not attainable in 5 years, 3 years. Just what feels real, and how are you going to build that into a plan, not a business plan,
Mhm.
a plan to incorporate getting to your business plan in your life or your project in your life and your purpose in your life. That's important. If you can't make a daily habit out of this part of your life that brings you meaning, you can't move forward with it. You can't realize it.
Mhm. That is so good. And I think that getting, like, you got to get real with yourself, basically. You're cutting through the fog and you're like, okay, here's the truth. And so do you help people find that where they get to their core, their vulnerability, and then you build upon that?
Yeah. And I do this in a cohort,
Okay.
a very intimate small group experience. So we structure this with the cohort where we meet once a week and open up. It's understood and believed. It's amazing, Charisse, the magic that just happens from bringing women together on a shared journey, even if their stories are different.
Yep.
The magic of safety that happens.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful thing. It really is. I can't really even describe it. And then they continue that conversation over the week asynchronously, and then they meet with me one on one, as well as we guide the process through. But going back to your question, what was your question?
Oh, you answered it.
It comes down to the space we create.
Yeah.
It's the experience and the space and the safety you feel to be vulnerable
Right.
and get there quickly enough to
Mhm.
be able to say, well, here's what I'm going to do about it. Because in the vulnerability and the discovery, you start to know who you are. One of the biggest things I always like to say is you cannot know yourself if you don't step into the unknown.
Yeah, that's true. And that's uncomfortable and scary at times. People will run and run and run from that for years before they're like, okay, I'm tired of running. Now I got to face it. And it usually is when we get a little older, not all the time, but it's like you finally stop and you're like, I don't know if I like this person anymore. I think I need to make a change. And that could be for you and I, like divorce. Not a huge proponent of it if you can get around it, but sometimes it's necessary. Or leaving your career, obviously, or starting a new one. So I want to talk about that. Like, in starting your business, how have you been able to, like, how'd you get it off the ground and get clients from like thought, this is what I think I want to do, to implementation?
Outreach. Um, It's interesting because I've been a marketer my entire life. I have done brand storytelling for some of the biggest brands, for some of the coolest campaigns, I mean, in the world, right? It's not the same thing, right? And you will know this, any entrepreneur will know this. It is not the same thing. This is about selling
Mhm.
yourself without selling your soul, without making it feel like this isn't who I am, because there's a boundary for where and if something is authentic
Mhm.
and where you're either too pushy or you feel like you're apologizing for asking.
Yeah.
There's a very fine line. So one is you really, to me, entrepreneurship, I'm playing with this is authorship. Like you know who you are, you understand that well enough, and then you start to look into, well, who is your audience and what's valuable to them, and how can you put this in a way that isn't about you at all? It's for them.
Mhm.
It's an art, and it is different from going on TV and making a beautiful Super Bowl commercial, which
No,
is
yeah.
also an art.
That's true. I always think about this because whatever our entrepreneurs are selling or doing or coaching or teaching, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, somebody else is most likely doing it as well. And so a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to take this idea and run with it because I could never do it as good as this other person. And the fact is, that other person might not resonate. I hired this coach for a very long time, and the voice of this person, my husband cannot stand. And so he's like, oh, how much longer are you going to be with this coach? I cannot stand her voice. And and so he would never hire her as his coach because it doesn't match him. but somebody else, he would. And so that's the thing, is don't get in your head about that. People are going to come to you because they trust you. And as we say, they know, like, and trust you. And so don't sit there and let that bad wolf talk you out of doing what you're supposed to be doing, because somebody is there and they need you. And so that's where being vulnerable, sometimes having the credibility, but also just being authentic and like, you know what, I'm going to take you and I'm going to help you transform your life.
I think the word that you use, trust, like that is the key. It's right. Like there's some things. Look, if you're talking to someone who knows somebody else who's a coach, and there's so many, right? Like you know somebody else who's a coach, and you feel comfortable with them. It doesn't matter what I say. They're not going to trust. It's not going to come to me, right? I was talking to a young. I hate to say young woman. I mean, it's not. I don't mean this as an ageist thing, but she's in her early 30s, by relative to me, a young woman. But so strong and so wonderful. And she used to work with me as a junior at HP, and now she's her own boss. And she comes to me with that sort of. She came to me the other day with that question. It's like, well, how do I make sure I'm in this room and people I see me for all I can do for them? And it's like, well, first of all, stop making this about proving yourself, right? This is, you have X, Y, and Z reasons for being in that room. You've got the credibility already. Now you just have to wear it and own it. So don't talk about yourself as if you're proving. And second, that guy who needs X work done, or that woman, she's not coming to you if she doesn't vibe with your energy. She's just not coming. So it's okay. And don't stress about that.
Right.
Find the people who do vibe. Those people will so show up. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. They show up and support you.
It is so easy as you're starting your own business to talk yourself out of something, or not even like get to the finish or the starting line and never start because of all this negative thought.
Absolutely. It's like you're there, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So what's good enough? You're there. You've already reached it. You're there. So not only are you're not good enough, you're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You are amazing, and your energy is amazing. And what's in your head, two things. One is imposter syndrome, which I can get on my soapbox about a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, totally get on my soapbox. I get all, and the other is, yeah, there are things where you're like, well, I could push this a little more. I could do this. I could, that's fine. That's that negative sort of like kind of pushing you, as long as it's not a sabotage, it's fine. But the imposter syndrome, the systems that are in place are not built for our bodies, ourselves, our intuition.
Right.
And it's hard. I mean, I work with some women who won't accept that, even who struggle to accept it. It's like, well, why can't this change? And there's a tension here because she's right. Like, this is not good for us. This is not healthy. So just going back to imposter syndrome, the reality is you might be right. You might be onto something, that belonging in this room, not being good enough. I mean, you're probably so amazing that this room, the energy isn't picking you up, right? Like it isn't right. And so don't necessarily see yourself as the problem. See yourself as reconciling, this is the reality. And what and how do I want to flow within it or without it? What does that look like for me? How do I keep that moving? That's more important than the room itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The quote came to me as you're saying that like when you break up, it's not you, it's me. Well, turn it around, honey. Like turn it around, saying it's not me, it's you, right? Because what you have to offer, there are people that want it. And so you might not be in the right room, like you said. Okay, so I want to switch because we're out of time and talk about motherhood for a minute, because obviously you have a son that, like, you lived the gamut and you now have the adult son, which is the worst age. I just don't enjoy it. I don't, like, not, your kids make their own choices and you're like, oh, I don't like that choice. But if you were sitting on a park bench and you had this 9-month pregnant woman, first time mom, come and sit next to you. And so you imagine yourself back at that point where you were pregnant with your son and now he's off to college or thereafter. What is one piece of advice that you wish you would have known that you know now as a parent that you would give to that woman?
In order to love your child, you must love yourself. The other day, one of the women in my cohort was talking about how it was hard for her to have a child. And afterwards, so much of her identity went into raising that child. It's the same thing we do with work, right? When we think about career too. And if this mother is a career-minded person, our identities form around work and they form around family and they form around our children. And we put everything into those roles that are defined for us in order to live up and into them. And in the process, we forget to love ourselves and remember and hold on to the values that matter to us, or more so than the matter is just your inside story. Who are you? Remember to love that and to continue to nurture that, because your children or your child will see that and respect and love and embody that same kind of energy as they go forward too.
That is so true. And making sure that you still have an identity. Like, it's totally fine to be the mom and to be all to your kids, but don't lose yourself in the process. And I think that's one of the reasons why I created this podcast, is to help you realize that you can have both. You can be the entrepreneur, but you can be the mom. And you're not unbreakable because you can do anything that you want to do. And no matter what happens to you, you can overcome it. Like at you, right? All the things that you've overcome as well.
I know we're at the end. I just want to tell you this. Well, one story is pumping breast milk, like milk while I'm driving to Milwaukee from Chicago in order to. I've done that. I've done that. But the one that.
I
Oh my
would go
goodness.
like this with both. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, the things. And the other was when I got divorced in India, my first time around. And that was because really I wasn't feeling respected. I was feeling like there was a lot of love, but it was on terms. It was conditional and it wasn't okay with me. So I broke from that marriage. People, that was the reason. And to keep my job while raising my child and being a single mom in this very harsh city for women in New Delhi, I would drive at lunch hour, like all the way to this nursery, like this daycare and back, pick up it was crazy. It was insane what I was doing. But I remember what my son said to me. He was 4 at the time. And it just totally was so beautiful. He says, we used to play this game. Mommy, I'm gonna send you a kiss with a cherry on top, or a kiss with chocolate cake, or whatever. So one day he says, I'm gonna send you a kiss with a punch in it. Like, what do you mean a punch? Like a knuckle, like a punch? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna send you a kiss like that. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? And he said, so the kiss will land on your cheek, and the punch will go and sit behind your heart. And this is while I was driving between this daycare and rushing back, like it was crazy. It'll sit behind your heart and punch any sadness or bad feelings that come into you.
Oh
And
my
I'm just,
gosh.
you know, you're just, yeah. He wanted me to be happy, and he saw and he sensed what I was doing. And it was just a moment I'll always hold very close, because our relationship has always been one of love and respect. He has seen 2 fathers. He has moved countries twice. He has moved cities, I think now 3, 4 times. And yet he has always had a strong bond of love and connection, and respect with me.
That's and I think like our kids are smart. They see through it, and I talk about it again in my book that that a lot of times the child and the pet, because I see your dog walking in the background, they can see the true person more than we can, because we want the all love, right? The fluff. We have the Twitter pated stage, and the kids see through that. And so, like, my daughter just got engaged, and so I asked my youngest two girls, "What are your thoughts about this guy?" And they're like, "We love him." you know but there's other ones that they've dated, they're like, "We don't like him." And so there's a reason. They don't know the reason, but for your son to say that a punch to get the sadness out, our kids see it. And the example that we're living for them is, I feel like a hypocrite right now sometimes, and not everything, but it is so important for the message. Like, and I think that that's why it's so important for me as an entrepreneur. Like, I tell my kids, you can do anything you want. You can do anything that you want. And and you can accomplish anything. The world is your oyster. But if I don't capitalize on the reason for that, then I'm being a hypocrite. And so that's why, like, I wrote my book. I wrote it for them, also to help other people. But um, it's to make sure that they don't make the mistakes that I made. It just so happened it was divorce that I was referring to, right? And so making sure that they choose the right person the first time. But it can change.
Yeah,
That person can change, and you don't have control
yeah,
over that.
yeah. And first of all, congratulations on the engagement.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's you they're going to make their mistakes, but you can rest assured that you've given them something
Yeah.
that will carry them through that.
Right.
And so that's the amazing part, is that we do that. And we are also not their best friends. I used to call my mother my best friend. That's not the role.
Mm.
That's not the role. It's the most love you can give them, not the most friendship. At least that's what I've seen.
I said that to my daughters. I'm not your friend. And my daughter threw that at me the other day. That really hurt my mom. And I'm like, well, let me explain the difference, because we're not on the same level. Like, I'm here as your mentor and I'm here as like your coach to guide you through this life. And I love you dearly. And so if we're just friends, I'm going to validate everything that you're doing, which I can't do. Right. So I love that you said that. And the fact that you have that relationship and you've raised a son who has respect for his mom, which tells me he's going to have respect for the women that he dates as well. So that's excellent.
I think that's the thing, is that you stand up in your whole self, then they will do the same for someone else, or they will respect and love that, and they won't look down on a woman on account of her abilities. Yeah.
All right. Well, if our listeners wanted to get a hold of you, they're like, "Oh, I do want to make a change. I do need help with this." How would they get a hold of you?
Let's go to my website. It is designyournext.studio.
Okay.
And our upcoming cohort is mostly at the end of every month or so.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Unbreakable Moms, be just that. Be your unbreakable self. If you're going through things, if you're struggling with things, just know that that's part of life and you'll get through it, first of all, and that you can do it. Or in the words of, I just forgot, you can do it. It's so important to make sure that you are happy with yourself and you're happy with your life that you're living. And if you're not, then reach out to designyournext.studio and go out and make it a great day.